Welcome to Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. You are going to hear the stories from the eclectic life of a guy who is a professional counselor, a family man, a SWAT team chaplain, outdoor enthusiast, a guy involved with ropes, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, a chaotic Jedi, and who is a recipient of an honorary doctorate from the University of Adversity. Using these stories, we take the facts lead to concepts, and from the concepts we make a variety of life applications. Just a caveat about the facts. Most of the time we will tell you the facts just the way it happened, but once in a while we'll give you the facts the way other people remember how it happened, and that usually includes a tablespoon of embellishment. No harm is meant, just good, clean fun for educational purposes. Please subscribe and share this with your friends or your enemies. It might help them to be better people if they listen. As always, we thank you for keeping up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Introducing the Bible degree with digital ministry. Paul used the marketplace and the synagogue to reach an expanded audience. We have access to the internet and social media. I once heard it said that when McDonald's introduced the drive-through window, they did not change the Big Mac, only how it was delivered. Faulkner University is now offering a new digital ministry track for their Bible degree. Faulkner's degree provides training in understanding and teaching the gospel, alongside training that will allow students to create quality digital content. Opportunities for evangelism in the digital spaces is unlimited, and this is innovative ministry education for our contemporary culture. One of the instructors is a 2-time Emmy-winning former ESPN designer. Members of the Church of Christ could be eligible for the full tuition Jack Zorn Scholarship in order to pursue this special area of study. For more information, contact admissions at faulkner.edu. That is admissions at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a digital partner with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Early morning routine at the Jones house is pretty varied. 2 days a week, I get up before the Spanish water dogs do and disappear into my day. Now, during hunting season, that number increases just a little bit. 3 days a week, the retired school teacher, lady gardener, and dog trainer and I go through different morning routines as we both prepare for whatever our various day holds. The conversation is always unique. I tell jokes. Jackie talks about politics, football. We discuss spiritual insights and observations from either classes we've taught or things that we're studying. We ask and answer questions, and we share our adventures, our projects, and our interest. On this particular morning, Jackie is making sourdough bread, or she's practicing sorcery or alchemy. I'm not real sure. There are strange implements scattered all over the kitchen counter, and she's mixing ingredients. I like making this stuff, she says. It makes me feel like a home and I finished school mom. Now, there's that look. That look I often describe, the one that is usually followed by her statement, I have lots of emotions, but no words. No, she finished, I feel like a homesteader. So now I walk over to the counter and I look into the apothecary jar that she's using, and there's this little stretchy cloth cap looking thing. And in my mind, it looks like a cap. I now know that it's not a cap for people. It's a cap meant to cover the jar that she's put the yeast starter or the leaven. But I thought it would make a great homesteader cap for Jedediah, the patriarch of the Homestead clan. This is considered poor form in the world of bread making, and the things the bread maker is using should not be touched, handled, looked at too long, or played with by the non-bread maker, despite his patriarchal status. My sweet wife has a unique and adorable personality to go along with her disposition. We, and that includes not just me and her, but a group of our friends, we often joke about her uniqueness to the point that she used to call herself an alien. Her perspective and sense of humor is so unique that it has dual relationship and random and eccentric. Her view of things is both pragmatic and whimsical. Numbers often get switched in her mind. She can't remember a password to save her soul, and she's always struggled with spelling. Please understand, she's incredibly intelligent. She graduated in the top of her classes in both high school. She graduated magna cum laude in undergrad, and she has a master's degree in kinesiology. But in spite of her learning and in spite of her academic prowess, we laugh and joke about her unique brain. She says she has a tablespoon of dyslexia, although I don't really think she does. But she does have a unique way of looking at things, and she's the only brain-aware person that I actually know. I read Daniel Ammon's research, where he was talking about the 7 main structures of the brain, and as I read that, it reminded me that Jackie is the only person I know who, when something is bothering her brain, she knows where it is in her head. When I tried to teach her how to tie knots, she would touch her head in a specific spot and say, "That hurts my brain right here." She can't play Wii bowling because her brain glitches, because she doesn't get the physics. She can't get the feedback of the actual weight of the ball in her hand, and it makes her sick. And when she tries to play the Wii Sports, she'll touch her head and say, "That bothers my brain right here." She can play Mario Karts because you're watching the little carts drive, but she can't do an immersive driving game because her brain is waiting to feel the G-forces of being in a moving car. And if she's in the first-person shooter position where she's in a car and can't feel the physics, it almost makes her sick. It makes her motion sick, and she points to that part of her head and said, "This is where it bothers my brain." That's just a little background of her uniqueness as I finish the rest of our conversation on bread making morning. She begins to explain the shamanism of bread making. And then she talks about this recipe she has, and she says, "I'm having to convert all the measurements into English because the lady that I learned this from is German." Now the German lady's name is Sabine, and they are friends from the dog training club where Oreo and Indy go to school. Sabine is one of the ladies that helps Jackie with her routines. There's also her friends Jody and her friend Martha. But today the conversation is only about Sabine. She, because she's German, uses the metric system. And so Jackie's having to convert the metric measurements to English measurements. And it's quite a challenge for her since she doesn't like numbers and doesn't enjoy math. And as we're talking about this, she says, "Oh, by the way, the lady who taught me to do this used to struggle with dyslexia, real dyslexia. But when she started reading and speaking English, the dyslexia went away." I'm blown away. I'd never heard that. I'm taking in this new information. I'm thinking about the book entitled The Gift of Dyslexia. I'm thinking about the different brain structures from Daniel Ammon's research, the cingulate gyrus and the hippocampus and the basal ganglia. I'm delving into the stories that I've heard where people would wake up from anesthesia and could speak another language. I'm thinking about the complicated intricacies of the human brain. And suddenly Jackie says, "And just think, if I were Chinese, I'd be normal." Okay, first of all, it is possible to be more or less dyslexic in different languages. It has to do with how deep or shallow the orthography of any given language is. Normally, English is the language that exacerbates dyslexia and not the other way around. I was deeply interested in trying to understand how this could happen. And not being a neuropsychologist, I was going to have to do some research, and I was trying to think of who I should read from and what I would Google in order to follow this little trail of thought. And I'm thinking these deep psychological research thoughts, and her takeaway, if I was Chinese, I'd be normal. The term neurodivergent probably doesn't even begin to cover a thought process like that. So let's talk about the idea of normal. You see, when I talk to folks who have issues with substance use disorders, I always ask them, so why do you use? And the most common answer is, well, to get high. And then I always respond with high as compared to what? You see, substances and compulsive use of things or behaviors that are designed to cope that become compulsive are about creating feelings that you don't or can't have or escaping feelings that you don't want to have. The behavior is almost always rooted in escaping how one feels normally. They don't like the way they feel when they feel normal, so they escape it. I don't believe my sweet wife struggles with any form of inadequacy or any kind of insecurity, and she's not uncomfortable with who she is, and she's not uncomfortable with who she's not. She enjoys, embraces, and is comfortable with her norm, but her norm is entertainingly weird, thus her funny random conclusion, if I were Chinese, I'd be normal, made me laugh. But it caused me to consider all the random thoughts that people have when they start considering normal. The unrelated things that we think we need to be or do in order to feel normal, be perceived as normal, or to be deemed as normal or adequate by other people. Now, when you begin to talk about normal, there's a dichotomy. On one side of the dichotomy is we accept who we are. I didn't cause it. I can't cure it. I got to cope with it. Or we look at the things that are controllable and we decide that our norm is not functional, and so we try to modify it. One side is feeling normal with your norm, and the other side is recognizing that we are using our norm to excuse ourselves or to control and manipulate other people. Making other people responsible for the difficulties my norm represents is probably intellectually and emotionally dishonest. Now, can an individual norm be abnormal? Absolutely. But the question is, do I embrace it? Have I learned to cope with it? Have I learned to deal with the particular idiosyncrasies that come with my normal? Or have I attempted to weaponize it such that others are forced to cope with it on my behalf? What are the limits? What are the parameters in accepting your normal? And I'm not talking about a relative truth, embrace your own truth, follow your heart, reality denying subjective worldview, but an honest appraisal of, I'm okay. And I don't have to do something radical like suddenly become Chinese to be okay. Just think if I were, and fill in the blank. Just think if I were blank, I'd be normal. Just think if I were thicker, thinner, more muscular, pretty, smart, athletic, like you, like them, I'd be normal. Or if I were less anxious, less sensitive, I didn't tend to personalize neutral or even bad things. Just think if I were less depressed, less lonely, less histrionic, less extroverted, or less introverted. Why is it that we can't just be okay with, I am this way? I respond this way. I think this way. And that's normal for me. Most of us, and that's a big generalization, but most of us would be okay with the idea of I'm okay with who I am and I'm okay with who I'm not. I'm not saying we never look for areas of improvement, not saying we ignore chances and opportunities for growth, but a simple, healthy understanding that on the continuum between unacceptable and ideal, most of us, for the most part, fall closer to acceptable than the other negative extreme. We all have individual idiosyncrasies, and they contribute to inconveniences or difficulties, but they're not really dysfunctions. They may make our life challenging, they may make our life interesting, and then in some cases they may make our life difficult, but they are also the secret ingredient to our own individual uniqueness. Feeling normal about our norm can present two distinct paths. Problems arise when we fail to make peace with or accept ourselves and our norm. Other problems follow if we can't, don't, or refuse to admit that what we normally do or how we normally respond creates drama, distress, destruction, or dysfunction. We have a norm that may work well for us, but it doesn't work or play well with others. And because it doesn't work or play well with others, we use that as pressure to alter, control, manipulate the behavior of others. In that case, it becomes not just a norm, but it becomes a toxic norm because we fail to recognize it, we fail to confront it, and we fail to make our own adjustments. We're waiting on everybody else to make adjustments. Making peace with our norm and the accompanying comforts or difficulties that come with it is what we all have to do. I tend to respond this way, and it is uncomfortable or inconvenient, but I choose that discomfort over the greater discomfort of going against my norm. For instance, you take a person who self-describes as an introvert, and they say, you know what, parties make me uncomfortable. Well, if going to a party makes you uncomfortable, then just make the choice, don't go. But don't expect family and friends to not go in response to your refusal or your inability to go. When your norm imposes difficulties on others, I don't want to go, and you shouldn't go without me. That's what I call a weaponized norm. And when I use it to control others, it is actually used as a weapon. The key is to be honest with yourself. You know, if I don't go to this party, I'm going to be depressed and I'm going to feel lonely and feel abandoned. But if I go, I'm going to be miserable and distressed. We'll choose one, choose the other, but don't make others choose to adjust what they enjoy or are able to do without you. If you're going to stay home and be depressed, then go for a little while. If you know you're going to go and be distressed, choose to say, I'm going to go and I'm only going to stay for an hour. But don't make it somebody else's responsibility to cope with that norm. You see, a diagnosis or a label is not an identity. A diagnosis and or a label like a personality disorder is not an identifying characteristic. It's not an excuse, and neither is it permission to behave a certain way. Those labels, those titles, those diagnoses are simply explanations. They explain. They simply and only place feelings, thoughts, perceptions, and behaviors into a context. That context is the normal way the person who struggles with that particular norm perceives, thinks, feels, and acts about certain things and in certain situations. It explains behavior, but it does not excuse it. It does not enable it, and it should not give it the power to control the behavior of others. The question really becomes is what I normally do, my thoughts, my feelings, my perceptions, my responses to those things, does it normally work? It's not really a question of normal versus abnormal, but probably whether or not your normal is healthy or whether your normal is unhealthy. Is what I normally do normally constructive or destructive? Does it normally produce harmony or division? Does it normally produce peace or chaos? Does it produce celebration or regret? Does it normally produce satisfaction or disappointment? Does it produce ease or distress? Changing what I normally do, not how I normally feel, but how I normally respond to how I normally feel, may seem unnatural. It may seem counterintuitive. It may seem abnormal. And me asking or expecting or even suggesting that as a strategy may seem that I'm uncaring. It may mean that I'm unrealistic, or you may say, hey, that just demonstrates a lack of understanding on your part. Didn't cause it. Can't cure it. How do you cope with it? That's how we adjust to our norm. So what makes a normal norm? You just ask this question: does what you normally do normally work? The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3 W's and a dot, hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3 W's and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.